Now, Peter Dutton would force public servants to return to the office 5 days a week under a coalition plan should they win the next federal election. The opposition says it wants to put an end to all work-from-home arrangements with few exceptions, calling it a common-sense policy. It follows the party's pledge to cut more than 30,000 public service workers if elected, which they say will save $6 billion per year. For their take, let's bring in 7 News reporter Nick McCallum and the founding director of Western Sydney Women, Amanda Rose. Good morning, everyone. Nick, do you think there'd be a revolt if public servants are all ordered back to the office?
I have no doubt there would be. I actually like the policy. I think it's ridiculous that, what is it now, more than 60% of federal public servants have ability to work at home. Now, the big banks, Amazon, Tabcorp, those companies are now clamping down, demanding their workers return to the office. And of course, in Melbourne and Sydney, the businesses around them need that. But there is a big but to all of this. Mr. Dutton, it's a perfect policy for him. He can sound tough, he can sound Trump-like, he can bang his chest and say, I'm going to demand they all come back. But of course, they recently have signed an EBA, and under their EBA, there is a presumption that they can work at home. All people in the public service can at least request it. There is a presumption they can do it, and there's no limit on the number of days they can actually work from home. So he can't really change that until 2027 anyway. Yes. So call me cynical, but it's a perfect policy for him. But at the moment, he can't do a lot about it.
Yeah, we'll be heading into the next election by 2027. So you're right, It sounds good, doesn't it? Amanda, the New South Wales government has already done this. A lot of companies are doing it, but a lot of people like the flexibility, don't they?
I think the problem is when people do all or nothing. So when it's all in for 5 days or all working from home for 5 days, it's like everyone's lost the ability to come to a compromise. Talk about flexibility rather than work from home. Some people might want different hours that they work so they can do drop-offs and pick-ups. So change the attitude. And also, I understand why Dutton's not wanting public service workers to work from home full-time, but to demand them to come in 5 days a week, who that's going to hurt the most are women, right? And mums that need that flexibility of work, and also dads that are, picking up the load and they're juggling. So it's a bit aggressive. So I'd say maybe have some form of compromise, and then it's a competitive advantage as an employee if you're willing to compromise.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. And I think there are, 365,000 Commonwealth workers. If you're one of them, what do you think about this morning? Moving on, Infrastructure Victoria has proposed slashing speed limits to 30 kilometres an hour on local streets. The plan would see child-friendly or school zones come down from 40 k's per hour, and streets with that default limit of 50 k's per hour reduced to 30. They say it's to make streets safer. Evidence showing a pedestrian hit by a car at 50 has an 85% chance of dying compared to 10% in 30 k per hour zones. Nick, you're right there in Melbourne. What do you think?
Well, this is a little bit of an old story. This has been recommended by Infrastructure Victoria, but it has in fact been trialled in the inner suburbs of Fitzroy and Collingwood for over 5 years. Now, the local council extended the trial last year to all local streets. It was particular local streets before that. And it argues that it's actually reduced minor accidents in the area by 50%, major accidents by 95%. And what it also argues is that there is now a lesser need for bike lanes in those streets because it is a lot safer. Now, many police and many other local residents say the compliance has not been great. And initially, the then Police Commissioner Shane Patton, when it was first introduced, said it was ridiculous because most of the major accidents in Victoria are on major roads and also in the regions. And this doesn't really, they don't have that many bad accidents. But it has appeared to have worked purely on a safety ground in that trial area.
OK, finally. Oscar winner Adrien Brody has sparked an online debate, not for his Best Actor win, but for what he did right before his speech. Take a look at this. He was chewing gum before it was revealed he won. Then he disposed of it by throwing it to his girlfriend, who seemed more than happy to catch it. Some say it's gross, others say it's love. Amanda, where do you stand?
If that is love, the bar has dropped so bad and so low, we just might as well give up now. How about swallow the gum, buddy?
Ooh.
You don't throw it at someone, at an awards, at your girlfriend, in front of everyone. And my rule is, if they're doing that in public, God only knows what they're like in private. But I think it's horrific.
Okay, Nick, we've got lots of different people. Someone says, whoever does that, it's gross, what a pig. Someone said it's the most romantic thing I've ever seen. It's a sign of a solid marriage. Nick, would you do this?
Look at me. I'm no expert on romance, and I'm not going to tell any Hollywood superstar give them advice about affairs of the heart. But let me tell you, if I'd taken gum out of my gob and thrown it at my wife, it would have been hurled back at me a million miles an hour. And also, she wouldn't have cared if there were hundreds of millions of people on live television watching. I would have copped an earful.
Oh, I like her already.
Yes, let me tell you.
Yeah,
it wouldn't have happened.
But the girlfriend, who I think was Harvey Weinstein's ex-wife, just as a
Hasn't she been through enough?
As a side issue, yeah, exactly. The poor woman, she just seemed to just go after it and not even care. Is it just between them?
Oh, obviously not, because the entire world was watching.
I know, I guess.
Look, just swallow it. Look, this just tells me he didn't have a hard childhood where our parents have said, swallow it right now before you go and see grandparents.
Yeah, OK. That's an interesting one. Thank you very much. Now to a fellow gum chewer who every morning before this show takes out his gum and rips off a piece of paper and puts it up carefully.
And doesn't throw it at someone's head.
I've never thrown it at you, Nat, to take care of.
No, you haven't.
One thing is for sure, though, Renato, our floor manager, has taken gum from a guest on the show in his hand. That guest is coming up later in the show. I'm not going to tell you who it is. Still to come this morning.